The day has finally come where I'm deciding to rank my top 25 theme parks I've been to. It's been a long time coming, but now that I'm back from my trip to San Antonio and have no immediate plans to visit any new park soon, it's time that I take a step back and rank the ones I've been fortunate enough to experience. Just a couple of disclaimers first, as I will not be including various Florida theme parks because the last I had visited some of them was when I was a very little kid. Next year though, I plan to revisit a lot of these parks and plenty of new ones as well, so I'll have to come back and update this list eventually since it can and will receive a facelift. Oh, and another thing that I should mention, this list is changing all the time as my opinions on parks differ from experience to experience. It's also not the easiest thing in the world to rank some parks that you visited as recently as this month and others as recent as 2 to 3 years ago, but that said, I'm gonna try to do my best for you guys. Just don't expect a picture-perfect list for that reason, and also for the fact that I haven't done every little thing that there is to do at each of these locations. Lastly, before we begin the rankings, I'd like to ask you guys to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Every person watching that chooses to do so is greatly appreciated, and of course it further motivates me to spend hours upon hours on videos like these. Now, without further ado, this is how I rank my top 25 theme parks I've been to. Number 25, Casino Pier in Seaside Heights, New Jersey. The first and only New Jersey boardwalk park that made it on this list is Casino Pier. What I like most about Casino Pier is that it's actually on a legitimate pier, unlike other boardwalk parks that are simply near the ocean. Even though the ride collection at, say, Playland's Castaway Cove is most definitely superior, the atmosphere and outlook on the ocean really makes me appreciate this park more than I thought I would. Number 24, Fun Spot Orlando in Orlando, Florida. This Fun Spot park is in Orlando, not Kissimmee. That park would have probably been the number 26 or 27 spot on this list. While both are nice, Fun Spot Orlando is certainly larger and has more attractions as a whole. Some of the ones that stand out are White Lightning, their fun GCI Woody, Freedom Flyer, a Vekoma Family Invert, Hot Seat, and S&S Scream and Swing, and many of their various go-kart tracks. I was exhausted when I visited this park, but nonetheless, I'd recommend squeezing it into your schedule after a full day at a larger Orlando park. Number 23, Adventure Dome in Las Vegas, Nevada. This indoor amusement park is the only fully enclosed location on this list because it's the only one I've been to as of now. This means that the amount of space they have to work with is extremely limited, but with such a huge obstacle comes a very unique way of doing things. This park literally squeezes rides in beside each other and have their roller coasters intertwined with other attractions inside the dome. It really is amazing that they fit so many quality rides into this little indoor park, but for that alone, it's a must visit if you're a coaster enthusiast and you're in Las Vegas. Number 22, Kennywood in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. This park left me with many questions and mixed opinions. Call me crazy, but I really wasn't a big fan of Kennywood. Many of the reasons behind this are minor complaints that topple on top of each other, such as operations, food, customer service, etc., but the most notable issue to me by far is the atmosphere. This park tries to retain a classic and old school feel, but fails tremendously in my opinion. They say this, and then try to run the place like it's a big corporate park, which bothers me a lot. It should either be one or the other. To pull off both simultaneously in the same park is something that very few parks around the world can achieve successfully. Some more minor complaints is I find the park layout to be very boring and surprisingly small, which should not be the case when you are surrounded with such a great setting. One thing I do have to give the park credit for, however, as well as the reason it ranks above the other parks so far, is the ride collection is pretty solid. Even though Steel Curtain, Skyrocket, and Black Widow were closed during my visit, I enjoyed almost everything I did get to ride, and their standout attraction, Phantom's Revenge, is undeniably incredible. I want to give this park another chance one day, and I hope when that time comes, the visit I have improves my overall perspective of the park. Number 21, Enchanted Forest in Turner, Oregon. It's now been over 25 months since I got the chance to visit this incredibly unique and strange theme park, but finally I'm able to shine some light on what is one of the most bizarre locations I've ever stepped foot into. This park gets an extremely minimal amount of attention from coaster enthusiasts, and I'm guessing that this is because the park only has 2 roller coasters and is located in Oregon. Nonetheless, these 2 coasters are about as unique as any coaster can get. As well as this, they have a fun dark ride called Challenge of Mondor that's definitely worth doing. Rides aside, what sets this park apart from literally any other in the country, and possibly the world, is the incredible Storytale Walk. To put it simply, this is a long journey through the forest in which you encounter giant buildings and statues from all sorts of childhood fairy tales. These characterize the qualities within the story tales, and the way this park is able to do this is honestly pretty amazing. Across these, you've got audio that immerses you into the experience, and occasional obstacles such as tunnels, mazes, and walkthroughs scattered throughout. What's even more awesome is that the entire walk starts the second you enter the park and is the most prominent way to get to the rides. There's just a lot to see and do at this place, which is why I wish I could place it higher on this list. The only problem is it's very difficult to rank since it's so different. Anyways, I'd highly encourage you to pay a visit before it's too late. The park is struggling greatly from the COVID-19 pandemic, and as well as paying a visit, a donation to their GoFundMe page to keep them around would mean a lot to the people of Enchanted Forest. Number 20, Waldemar in Erie, Pennsylvania. Waldemar is a true classic, offering a wide array of rides and attractions that are both old school and modern. When I said those two qualities in one park was difficult to achieve in the Kennywood section of the video, I meant it, yet still Waldemar is one of the few parks I've been to that's capable of pulling it off. With it having been my home park for about a week's time, I was able to get to know the place pretty well, both the dry park and the water park. Despite being absolutely tiny, there's a surprising amount of quality attractions to choose from here. Ravine Flyer 2 is their standout ride, and it's definitely one that's worthwhile. There's also an incredibly intense drop tower and X-Scream, a solid log flume and Thunder River, and even some classic walkthroughs and dark rides. Away from the rides, Waldemar has a nice variety of food to choose from, some nice landscaping as well, and one of my favorite things I saw here was the ability to convert US dollars to Wally bucks. Although I probably won't get back to this park anytime soon, and at least until they add something substantial, it's safe to say that the memories I've created here are going to stick with me for many years to come. Number 19, Dorney Park in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Owned and operated by Cedar Fair, Dorney Park is a relatively small amusement park with a somewhat poor reputation amongst coaster enthusiasts. This isn't even because the park is bad though, but just because people like to compare it to some of the larger Cedar Fair parks like Cedar Point and Kings Island in Ohio. I personally think this is an unfair way of looking at it because I very much enjoyed my 2 visits to Dorney Park over the years. My first visit took place in 2018 and the second in 2020, both with cloudy to rainy weather scattered throughout the day. Despite this, the park seemed to be pretty well kept and nicely maintained. And even if none of them will necessarily take your breath away, I'm never hesitant to admit that Steel Force, Talon, Hydra, Possessed, and Demon Drop are all loads of fun. I'd say my lowish expectations in the past have helped raise my likings of this park a lot higher than they would have been otherwise. I wouldn't expect Dorney to blow you away, but it's not even close to being a bad park. I just think it deserves more positive recognition from what most give it credit for. Number 18, SeaWorld San Diego in San Diego, California. Yes, the closest park to me, and the one I built up the most memories at too. In 2019, it was really common to see me at SeaWorld every other weekend that I wasn't visiting a different park in SoCal or wasn't on a trip. After dozens and dozens of visits, I've really grown to love this place and I really couldn't be happier with it as my home park. I say this because I feel as if I sometimes take it for granted, and also because it's rapidly expanding. Since 2018, the park has added 3 new roller coasters to add to their collection of rides, but aside from that, that's not even what the park is all about. It's one of the most beautiful in the country, has a lot of awesome marine life, great food, fairly solid operations. Yeah, the ride lineup could use some improvement, especially when compared to other SeaWorld parks, but that said, I can't give them too hard of a time since they're constantly adding new coasters and working to improve the collection. Skipping SeaWorld San Diego on a trip to Southern California is something that I see way too many people doing, but in my opinion isn't exactly ideal. It's absolutely worth the visit, and I just can't wait for the day that they can safely reopen once more. Number 17, Lake Compounce in Bristol, Connecticut. I remember pulling up to this park and remembering in the back of my head that it's owned by the same company behind Kennywood. This scared me quite a bit, but much to my surprise I walked away from Lake Compounce with a big smile on my face. I honestly thought this park fixed every issue I had with Kennywood, and for a while I completely forgot it was part of the same chain, let alone any chain. It really did feel like a family-owned park, and the atmosphere was just as relaxed as I hoped for. To further complement this, the park is very pretty, has great staff, good food, a good collection of rides, and a beautiful location amongst the mountains. Speaking of, Lake Compounce was able to incorporate their standout attraction Boulder Dash onto the side of one of these mountains, and man, it's just so cool. To keep it short, by the way, Boulder Dash is a great marquee attraction for this park, and its setting is almost indescribable. Unless it being really nitpicky, I'm not sure I have any legitimate complaints towards this park. It really was everything I hoped it would be and more. Number 16, Lagoon in Farmington, Utah. Lagoon is a roller coaster-filled oasis that I just recently got the chance to visit back in September. The park has a beautiful mountainous backdrop, a lot of pretty landscaping, and most importantly, a great overall ride collection. Other than their 10, soon to be 11 roller coasters, they also have some awesome flat rides and water slides. I also felt as if the park did a good job at retaining a classic, quirky atmosphere. There were a few sections of the park that screamed Knoebels and Waldemar vibes, as well as a hint of Enchanted Forest as well. Another thing to take note of are how awesome the staff here. Everyone was super friendly. While I'm on the topic of customer service, shout out to Lagoon for allowing us to record POVs on their coasters. But anyways, I had a great time here and would be more than happy to return one day. Number 15, SeaWorld Orlando in Orlando, Florida. SeaWorld Orlando is what I think of as a perfected SeaWorld San Diego. Yeah, the parks are obviously very different in many ways, but every con I had with my home park seems to be vastly improved upon here. One of which is of course the ride/coaster collection, which is very strong for a park that focuses mostly on marine life. Here you have 3 very strong B&Ms in Mako, Manta, and Kraken, as well as a great water coaster in Journey to Atlantis. There's also a world-class rapids ride and a solid trackless dark ride too. Speaking of, I really like the entire Antarctica section here, and I really wish we had that in San Diego. Anyways, rides aren't all that the SeaWorld parks have to offer. There's many exhibits, shows, and points of interaction with the animals that are worth checking out for sure. SeaWorld Orlando's future looks to be very bright, along with just about every other SeaWorld park, so I can't wait to see how the park progressively grows in quality. Number 14, SeaWorld San Antonio in San Antonio, Texas. 2 weeks ago, I had a park experience that really blew me away. My perspective of the SeaWorld entertainment chain shifted in a positive light and really made me realize that you shouldn't entirely form an opinion on something until you see it for yourself. Would it be a stretch to call SeaWorld San Antonio the most underrated park in America? I haven't been to them all, of course, but out of the parks I've been to, this one really shocked me. The coaster lineup focuses far more on quality rather than quantity, thus the entire top 4 is incredibly well-rounded for what it is. I also really appreciated the staff and how friendly everyone was, and the mask enforcement was excellent here. Oh, and my favorite thing about SeaWorld San Antonio is the atmosphere. It feels so lively, especially at night. It was unlike anything I've ever seen at a SeaWorld park. I walked away extremely impressed, which is why I think Texas's SeaWorld is the best of the 3 in the country. Number 13, Universal Studios Hollywood in Universal City, California. It took a while before I ever got around to visiting Universal Studios Hollywood, since I'd always choose to go to Magic Mountain over it, but last year I got to spend a day at the park, and it's a day that I'll seriously never forget. While there are some nitpicky complaining I could give this park, such as how obnoxious it is to navigate, most everything else is amazing. The park is split up into 2 parts, a large upper lot and a smaller lower lot, which is where you'll be able to find Super Nintendo World when that opens. First, let's talk about the rides down in the lower lot. I really enjoyed all 3 of the currently existing ones, being Jurassic World, Revenge of the Mummy, and Transformers. They are all very solid in their own right. The reason to make it a point to visit this park annually, however, is for the entire Hogsmeade area, aka the Wizarding World of Harry Potter section of the park. I know it could be found in Florida, Japan, and now China, but it really is one of the greatest themed areas of any theme park in the world. It's incredibly immersive and has some amazing things to see and do. The 2 best are drinking frozen butterbeer, which is the best drink I've literally ever consumed, and of course the Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey dark ride, which is a masterpiece. It's easily one of the best dark rides ever built. Some other things I liked were their world-famous studio tour attraction, the premiere show Waterworld was excellent, and a lot of the food I had, although expensive, was pretty good. I absolutely recommend coming here if you're more of a theme park guy than an amusement park guy, or if you just love both equally. You will not regret it. Number 12, Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California. Knott's Berry Farm has been one of my home parks for as long as I can remember, and it really did lead the way towards me becoming the enthusiast I am today. Without Accelerator obliterating my fear of thrill rides, I'm not so sure life would be the same. Since this happened, I've been to the park countless times and I've never walked away dissatisfied. One of my favorite things about Knott's is how many non-coaster rides they have that are must-do attractions every visit. That said, their coasters are great too. I also love the entire Ghost Town area. It's so cool and it's always a treat to see. And of course, Knott's has tons of charm. Everyone always seems to mention that. I really do love Knott's and I always feel at home when I visit. I'm doubtful a day will ever come where I'm not looking forward to my next visit. Number 11, Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson, New Jersey. One of the more controversial parks on this list is Six Flags Great Adventure. I got to visit for my first time a couple months back and really had a great time. Although some aspects of the park are questionable, along with most Six Flags theme parks, I couldn't help but love their incredible lineup of roller coasters. The diverse collection of B&Ms and Intamins is simply fantastic. I also like that they have a Zamperla Giant Discovery and a Justice League Dark Ride here, 2 very fun non-coaster rides. Oh, and Zumanjaro of course, likely one of the best drop towers in the world. Another thing that's important to take note of are the animals I saw when walking around the park. There was a surprising amount of them that you can see, especially within the Golden Kingdom area. I didn't do the safari, but I thought it was still refreshing to see some pretty cool animals. My overall thoughts on this park summed up in short would be that many areas outside of the ride lineup could use some work, but what really boosted up this high is the aforementioned lineup of rides and coasters. And the fact that it'll be improved furthermore with the addition of Jersey Devil is great as well. That's going to be such a great reason to come back here. Number 10, Knoebels in Elysburg, Pennsylvania. I had a pretty difficult time deciding on a placement for this park, but I came to the conclusion that I'd place it just barely inside my top 10. Though I will say, if my future visits proceed to give me the amazement I've had in the past, I wouldn't be surprised if this park shot up higher in my rankings. What's so amazing about Knoebels is just how different it is. It feels exactly like how a traditional old-school amusement park should, with many quirks and strong suits. The lineup of rides here are surprisingly very diverse, and the flat rides all run top-notch programs. The Flyers are undoubtedly one of the craziest flats I've ever ridden. Oh my god! The drop tower is super intense, the log flume is great, and many of their other classic attractions such as Cosmotron, Paratrooper, Downdraft, Fandango, Haunted Mansion, Looper, Power Surge, and more are solid as well. More so than any other park I've been to, Knoebels is the hardest to get bored at and the one that feels the most like the home away from home. Oh, and away from the rides, there's an outstanding atmosphere here and some exceptional food. To touch on the latter a bit, there's so much variety and different delicious tastes that can be found within each and every single bite of every meal you get. In my opinion, Knoebels will always remain one of the greatest old school amusement parks in the world. It's so incredibly unique and there's a ridiculous amount of things to love about it. Number 9, Disney's California Adventure in Anaheim, California. The first of the 2 Disneyland Resort theme parks you'll be seeing on this list is California Adventure. First and foremost, I'd like to say that I can't really think of a single bad thing about this park. Matter of fact, it's pretty much perfect for what it is. I just struggle to pinpoint the reason why I refuse to put it any higher, but still, there's a lot to talk about within this park, so let's dive right in. The rides are exceptional. Just look at Guardians of the Galaxy, Radiator Springs Racers, Soarin' Over California when it's around, Incredicoaster, Grizzly River Run, and Midway Mania to name a few. All of these are amongst my favorite attractions in the entire world. I also love the immersions within the theming here, as well as many of the different areas. I could probably go on and on about the amazing things that there is to see and do here, but if I did, I'd be here forever. What's even crazier is that this is just one of the parks here, and none of this is including the downtown Disney district. There's simply a ton of things to see and do in this resort, and I'll touch more on this later, but for now, let's continue with the list. Number 8, King's Dominion in Doswell, Virginia. My experience at King's Dominion was certainly one to remember. I got to take my first ever visit in the spring of 2018, arguably the best time to visit the park since its opening in 1975. The reasoning behind this is because Volcano the Blast Coaster and Twisted Timbers were both operating simultaneously, and this was only the case for approximately 2 months. This made for an unbelievable top 3 coaster lineup that also includes Intimidator 305, a ride that was actually my number 1 coaster for well over a year. Even if it's fallen a couple spots since, it's an incredible roller coaster that deserves all the praise it gets. Twisted Timbers was exceptional as well, with extremely violent ejector airtime and wonky transitions, what's not to love. Also, I kinda got a front row ride on Volcano, which is one of the most memorable rides I've ever had on any coaster. Outside this, there's a relatively strong flat ride lineup and a beautiful setting amongst the trees. Since I visited in April, there were cherry blossoms scattered throughout the park, which was beautiful as well. King's Dominion is a very well-rounded park, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next chance I get to visit. Number 7, Canada's Wonderland in Vaughan, Ontario, Canada. One memory that sticks out the most with this park was driving away and missing it within minutes of not being inside. Most of the time, I'm not thinking about how much I already miss a theme park because I'm so content with my visit. Don't get me wrong, I was very happy about the 2 days I spent here, but man, I just wanted to run back in the second I left. I consider Canada's Wonderland to be underrated, and I'm not sure why. I'm guessing it doesn't get the attention it deserves because it's in Canada, and not everyone gets the opportunity to go here, but I urge you all to purchase a passport and cross the border to get here. The park is beautiful, and the overall atmosphere is fantastic. The operations are good, I like the food just fine, the lineup of coasters was great and diverse, and the list goes on. It's a park that pretty much just checks off all the boxes, but especially excels in an unreal flat ride lineup. Some of the ones I'm referring to are actually unique to this park only. When it's my first time at a large park like this, I never make it a point to ride any flat rides, but here, that rule is an exception. I love Canada's Wonderland, and it pains me knowing I probably won't get back for a while. Number 6, Busch Gardens Tampa in Tampa, Florida. Here's a park that really just puts a smile on your face from simply walking around. There were times where I completely forgot I was in a theme park because of how crazy the walkways are beside the animals and within the greenery. The theming here is amazing as well. The Pantopia sections, for example, is one of my favorite sections of any theme park I've been to. Not only that, but the area's headlining attraction Falcon's Fury is one of the best flat rides in the world. Of course, you can't talk about Busch Gardens Tampa without mentioning its lineup of coasters. Although there isn't exactly a ton, there's definitely a lot of quality, as with most other SeaWorld parks. Not only are Kumba, Montu, Shikra, Cheetah Hunt, and Cobra's Curse all fantastic, but they all complement each other perfectly. Prior to an announcement made a few years ago, I would have told you that this park could really use a standout coaster, one to hold up to the quality of this park. Well, since my first visit, they've constructed Iron Gwazi, which looks like it'll end up being one of the best coasters on the face of the planet when it opens next year. This park is absolutely worth the detour from Orlando, and I can't wait to come back once more. Number 5, Hershey Park in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Easily one of the most well-rounded parks in the world is Hershey Park, which funny enough resides in a small town called Hershey. To start, this park has a fantastic lineup of coasters that is almost unmatched. With Skyrush, Candemonium, Stormrunner, Fahrenheit, Great Bear, Lightning Racer, and more, the lineup is just stupid good. Hershey Park is also very well kept with plenty of trees and greenery. And of course, with the name Hershey Park, there's got to be a lot of sugary desserts. One that comes to mind right away is the king-size shakes that can be found inside the park. It seems like Hershey Park is one of the very few that checks off every single one of the boxes. It's exactly what I look for in a good amusement park, and it's one that I'd consider to be the first 10 out of 10 park on this list, though Busch Gardens Tampa will probably follow suit very soon. Number 4, Six Flags Fiesta Texas in San Antonio, Texas. The 2 days I spent at this park were magical. I can't describe it any better than that. The entire city of San Antonio blew me away, and the Six Flags park within it is no exception at all. I still cannot thank that park enough for a truly amazing time. They were committed to providing their guests with a safe, exceptional theme park experience, and even when the park was deserted and the temperatures were freezing cold, they always had all their rides up and running. It has such a lively atmosphere and so much character, and all the employees gifted us with warm welcomings and smiles too. And you know, this park is a good one when I can't stop talking about how great it is outside of the ride lineup. I haven't even begun to tell you guys how elite their coaster collection is. Most notably, I'm talking about their top 3. Superman, Wonder Woman, and Iron Rattler are all amazing rides. They also have a great pendulum ride, a surprisingly fantastic log flume, and a cool dark ride as well. The vibe that this park gives off is unmatched, and I can't recommend a visit enough. Number 3, Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California. Welcome to roller coaster paradise. It really doesn't get much better than this. Although maybe unpopular, I personally think that every negative thing people have to say about Six Flags are redundant here. In my honest opinion, Magic Mountain rivals Cedar Point for best amusement park in the world, and yes, I consider this one to be a 10 out of 10. The lineup of rides here is astounding. You've got X2, Twisted Colossus, Tatsu, Full Throttle, Apocalypse, Batman, Viper, Riddler's Revenge, West Coast Racers, Superman, Justice League, Crusader, Jetstream, Lex Luthor, and soon to be an extended Jersey Devil clone. Oh, what a mouthful. All of those are extremely awesome rides though, and I must reiterate how long that list was. Some of those that I just listed are up there with the elites of coasters and flat rides too. While you guys are watching this video, I suppose I should back up some of the complaints this park gets too. If you don't like the ads, ignore them. It's never a big deal to me, and I think many other non-Six Flags parks in the country have more advertisements scattered throughout than this one. Also, this park is beautiful, and at times you forget that there's a Monster 4D or a dueling RMC or a near 200-foot B&M flyer nearby. I don't know what it is, but every single day I've ever spent at this park has been legitimately perfect. It rightfully deserves its title of the thrill capital of the world, and if you haven't already, you just gotta pay yourself a visit soon if you haven't already. Number 2, Disneyland in Anaheim, California. I can't explain in words how much this place means to me. I grew up going to the California and Florida Disney parks, and this one right here is the most sentimental value for me. As important as it is in that regard, it's not why I rank it so high though. It ranks so high because I find myself the happiest here, likely over any other park I've been to. Every single time I visit, I find myself with a big smile on my face and excitement as I get to the next ride or attraction. Speaking of, Disneyland has some of the most impressive and immersively themed attractions on the planet, my favorites of which being Indiana Jones, Splash Mountain, Pirates of the Caribbean, Smuggler's Run, Matterhorn, Space Mountain, Roger Rabbit, Mr. Toad, Thunder Mountain, and probably many more. I haven't yet been on Rise of the Resistance, but I can automatically confirm that it'll be one of my favorite rides I'll have ever ridden, and it's probably the best on the planet, honestly. While we're on the topic of Star Wars, the Galaxy's Edge section of the park is astounding. It's so well themed, there's stormtroopers all around you, they have actual Millennium Falcon there, and its amazing and unique food options will never disappoint. Oh, and they also happen to have 2 of the world's best attractions built into some incredible rock work. I will never get tired of this park. It's very expensive, so I don't get to go as much as I'd like to, but the price tag is worth it, and if anything, it makes each and every single one of my visits all the more special. Number 1, Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. I know this isn't a surprise to many, but Cedar Point is as of now my favorite place in the world. It's the closest thing you got to heaven on earth. It's a park that always has me wanting to run back through the front gate the second I leave. The list is ridiculously long, so I won't go through it all, but from Steel Vengeance to Gemini to Millennium Force to Gatekeeper, the lineup here is diverse and simply the best in the world. You got 4 fantastic Intamins, 4 solid B&Ms, 4 classic Arrows, and a world-class RMC. This place really does have it all. In my opinion, however, you don't even need to be riding anything to be enjoying yourself. Simply being here makes me happy, and the magical vibe it gives off is amazing. Seriously though, this park does have a certain magic to it that is unmatched by any other in the world. Talking about it makes me want to cry, and I just can't wait to get back here. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video in which I've covered my personal top 25 theme parks I've been to. As always, if you liked what you saw, be sure to subscribe to the channel and help us hit 1.5 thousand subscribers by the end of the year. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye guys.